I'm rebuilding Harvard in college basketball today, but the last time I played this game I struggled, getting South Carolina relegated from 2 conferences, and this video is not going to end until I get Harvard a national championship. I've also laid out a list of 6 challenges I want to complete in this rebuild, including joining a new conference, which if you didn't know, you can get conference invites in this game, but first we have to start out in the Ivy League. I was really hoping we'd be projected to be one of the top teams in the conference, but it looks like we're supposed to finish in 6th place out of 8. And taking a look at our team roster, our best player is actually going to be a freshman point guard, Malik Mack. I'm pretty excited to use this kid off the rip because he's a 99 three-pointer. And one thing you'll notice throughout this entire video is I'm really going to focus on training shooting more than anything else. Now, for some of our first recruiting challenges here at Harvard, they want me to sign a 2-star recruit. They want me to sign somebody with average potential. And I'm glad we only have 2 available scholarships for this first class because I can remember recruiting being pretty difficult. Since we apparently had 7 point guards on the roster, I made sure to cut a couple of them and also redshirt a couple of them. And this first letter from my athletic director is just telling me to keep an eye on the message center, which is where I've been able to find some of these other emails. That's actually going to leave us with this challenge, which is win the home opener and the alumni will reward the team with a facility upgrade. And if it's been a while or you've never played NCAA basketball 10, you can upgrade these different facilities like your study hall, your practice gym, your weight room, and it'll give you certain stat boosts. We can also raise stuff like our school pride. At the moment, it's 2 stars alongside our team prestige. And theoretically, the more that we raise that up, the better chance we have at getting a bigger conference invite, which would knock off one of the challenges. Going back to recruiting, you're going to see there are a couple 3-star prospects that are willing to come to Harvard and test their academic knowledge. They're going to say they're smart enough to play for us. And the one center I really want to land is Tim Butts because he comes in at 7-1. In order to get him, we're going to send him an email first. We're going to send a letter of interest. I might even give him a package if that'll help. And I know we get a facility upgrade if we can beat North Dakota State in our first game. This is the home opener. We're just going to sim it. I'll hop into a game or 2 every season. And it looks like it's going to end with us coming out on top 71-67. Sure enough, our athletic director is going to hit us back up and he's going to say, way to go, coach. The Alumni Association is very pleased with our win in the home opener. We now have a facility upgrade available. And I think the first thing I want to get up is the weight room just because that has to do with our speed and our quickness. As we take it to future levels in the future, the facility will look nicer. It won't be just a square box. And checking in on our emails for recruiting, we have a ton of players that we just got scouting reports back on, so we need to look at those. So far, it looks like we can't see anything about their potential, but we can see the stats that they're averaging in high school. There's also no details available yet, but we probably need to do stuff like phone their high school coach. And since I cut a couple of our freshman point guards, we have 4 scholarships available instead of 2. That's going to be pretty helpful for us because we definitely did not need 7 point guards on this team. And our first loss of the season is going to come in an embarrassing fashion to Georgetown, 102-60. Before this first season takes a turn for the worst, I think we're going to offer a scholarship to all 3 of the 3 stars that are on our board. And I wish I could pitch academic prestige on this visit because maybe that would make them want to come to Harvard, but instead we're going to have to go for playing time. To be honest, since they weren't even fully interested in committing to Harvard yet, I thought it was going to be a lot harder than this, but every single one of them said yes. And with 3 3-star signings, I feel like I'm already blowing the expectations for the Crimson out the water. I also figured out what type of scouting it would take to reveal player overalls on some of these 2-star shooting guards just because I wanted to sign a shooting guard. Theo O'Neal is the best option right now. He averages almost 50% from behind the arc, and these details say his raw speed would be a tremendous asset to our program, but I don't believe he'll always have an eye on the pros as a 2-star prospect. We should probably get rid of this scout. Either way, I'm gonna take our chance on Theo O'Neal, offer him our final scholarship. And I've just been simming through the regular season because we all know the best part about college basketball is getting to March. During the first month of the season, we actually weren't too bad, but we finished out December 1-6, which means we're ready for conference play, but I'm not happy about a 6-9 record. I was thinking maybe some struggles came from injury, but nobody's on the injury report, so we're just that bad. And I think players can progress throughout the season, so what I really want to see by the end of the year is a huge overall jump out of Malik Mack. He is currently not leading us in points per game though. It is actually Chandler Piggy. This kid is scoring almost 20 points per game, which is really good for a 71 overall. And one thing that used to be really unique about the Ivy League is they didn't have a conference tournament, so whoever wins the regular season conference title in our conference is going to get the automatic bid. That makes these next couple of months extremely important for us. We just lost by 1 point to Penn whenever we could have easily taken them down. And I almost forgot to check it, but it looks like Theo O'Neal did commit to Harvard. We're going to be able to knock off some of our recruiting objectives. I would think some of the other players we signed would cover these, but I just didn't scout them far enough to really know. Going into our game against Yale, we're on an 8-game losing streak. We are doing terribly, and it's already been confirmed for us. There's no chance we win our conference and get into the tournament. That's going to make me want to just sim to the end of the year instead of hopping dropping in against Yale, but I think I still want to play them one time, and this is simply going to be to get a feel for the team that we're working with. Going into this one, they're averaging 14 more points per game, and their roster is a lot better than ours. You can see that the Yale arena is not that big though. You also might notice quarter length is not going to be very high for us because I want to play in a lot of games, especially once we get to conference tournaments, making the tournament, so that's why it's that short. I always have a lot of fun in these quicker matchups though. So far, Yale has been pretty hard to stop offensively, and just using Mac at point guard, I can tell he has a lot of room to grow. His defense hasn't been great. He's not able to beat anybody off of the dribble on the offensive end, and then he also is a left-handed shooter, but that has been the one thing that's kept us in this game because we cannot go down low at all. From what I've seen so far in this game, there's a reason we're sitting at 7-20, and I just hope that we shoot a lot better in the second half offensively. That's really been the main issue. We've had no fast break points, and I really was trying to give our center a chance to make plays himself, but the more threes we give up, the more obvious it is we need to put them up ourselves. Then the game decided to freeze though, so I guess that's just our sign that we were not meant to win, and I'm completely fine with that. I was ready to sim to the end of the season anyway. We ended it off with a win over Dartmouth, who was somehow worse than us, but going 2-12 in Ivy League conference play, 8-21 overall is really bad, and there was still a chance we completed our first challenge, having a player that averaged over 20 points per game, but Chandler Piggy fell 0.6 points per game short, which stinks, but it's not the end of the world. The only player that's a senior we're losing that started for us is Justice. He's our center, and we picked up some replacements during the recruiting period. Taking a look at this selection show though, I'm curious who made it out of the Ivy League, and also how Kentucky does, because this is where we actually thrive. It looks like it's going to be Yale getting the 13 seed playing Arizona, and so our rivals had a chance to have a great moment, but they couldn't get out of the first round like expected. Tennessee is a 2 seed, lost to 15 seeded Georgia State, and that was the biggest upset of the tournament, where this was the Final Four and St. John's won the entire thing. They aren't going to be one of the only Northeast teams going for championships in this video. Here are all of our signings. We have to just confirm that we actually want to sign them, and I am seriously so excited to see what overall Tim Butts is. He's the perfect replacement for Justice, and losing a point guard that's a 65 overall doesn't bug me at all, but because we made all those signings, we have no available scholarships to use in off-season recruiting. It's not like we're missing out on much though. There was a 2-star that was interested in coming to our school and a bunch of 1-stars, which just shows we got very lucky signing 3 3-stars in this class, especially since Tim Butts is a 72. If you were to compare our class to the rest of our conference, we had more 3-stars than the rest of the Ivy League combined, which is a very good sign for the future. And we really need some hope, because if you look at the season projections, we're supposed to finish 6th in our conference again. We also only have 57 points to spend in recruiting, which is like nothing. And I've decided to redshirt 3 of the 4 freshmen that we just brought in, but I'm hoping that doesn't cause them to transfer out. Of course, the only player that's not being redshirted as a freshman is Tim Butts, who's starting. I am definitely not looking forward to recruiting this season. I've only been able to find a few 2-stars that are even interested medium in Harvard. And it's not like I just can go after nobody. We have 3 scholarships we have to use. With some of our training results, I was hoping that Malik Mack could get up higher than a 76 overall and Tim Butts higher than a 73, but we'll take it. And I've already noted that our overall is a B versus like the C+ that it was last year, but that's way worse than Northern Kentucky. My former school is probably about to start the season beating my team, and I wish that we were better than we were, but we're just gonna have to suffer with the fact that we're not. Considering we've now fallen down to a 1-star team prestige, it's gonna be a process to get Harvard a national championship. And I really don't want to recruit the only 3 2-stars that even have a slight interest in coming to Harvard, but we have no choice. These players aren't even in our pipeline, so it's super expensive to go after them. We have no points to spend. And if it took me 17 years to win it all with South Carolina, I can only imagine how long it's about to take me to win it with Harvard. With as tough of a non-conference schedule as we had, we were set up for failure. We've gone 2-13 so far before we are ready to start conference play. And of course, that makes us the worst team in the Ivy League. There's no way that we're going to get an invite to a better conference playing like this. I just don't see how things could turn around. I did make a little progress in recruiting. I got 1 signing so far off of strictly just going with the email recruits and sending letters of interest. But if Russ Tidwell doesn't accept this scholarship offer, we're going to have to go after players during the off season. My only hope for this year is now that we're in conference play, we could start to turn things around, since the team that we have on paper really isn't that bad. We just haven't won in so long. And we're not going to get Russ Tidwell. We're still not even in his top 6. We only have 8 points left to spend on recruiting. So I literally don't think this season could have gone any worse than it has for us. We are losing everything. We even lost to Dartmouth, the worst team in our conference, in the last game. If it was possible to get relegated lower than the Ivy League, I feel like we would find a way to do so. If we cannot beat Dartmouth the second time that we face them this season, I just know that this team's fully done. And even that win doesn't bring me any joy because we're going to lose out on Russ Tidwell like expected, while also most likely ending the year with a loss to Princeton. No, we beat them. All right, 6-23 instead of 5-24. That's a huge difference. And I just can't believe this season went this way. We've returned so many players that started for us. Thomas Batty's off of the bench was actually our third leading scorer. And somehow as a freshman, Tim Butts was able to grab more rebounds per game than points per game. I genuinely just have no words for what we just experienced. That was brutal. And keeping up with our rivals Yale, who actually get to make the tournament while we watch them on the couch from home, they were the 8 seed. They made a run all the way to the Elite 8 where they lost to Indiana. UK Kentucky won the national championship. And that makes me feel better because we only have one player that we're going to sign during verbal agreements. I am very scared that players are going to transfer out. It's just going to be Peyton Pitts, one of our backup point guards. And honestly, some of these other seniors aren't that big of losses. We had a small forward that averaged more points per game, and we also have a point guard and shooting guard better than these two. With one of our guys transferring out, though, we have 3 scholarships available again instead of 2. And we have a couple locks of 2 stars that would probably instantly commit to Harvard, so we're going to offer them scholarships. But outside of that, if Derek Wake, who has medium interest, doesn't come to Harvard, then we're just going to miss out on having a player on our team. Even worse, though, before I could even offer a scholarship to Liam Swenson, he committed to Akron, so that's one player we're not getting. And the next week, I was able to get Jeff Welch. We've also bumped up our spot on Derek Wade, but we're still not in his top 6, and I had to offer him a scholarship. Did it work? It did, but we have a bald 18-year-old that I know nothing about. And it turns out he's just going to be a 64 overall. We're going to be in such a bad spot. As other teams in the Ivy League somehow seem to get better, we continue to remain in 6th place projection for the year. And we also keep on getting less points for recruiting. How are we supposed to use only 46? I will say, at least our roster continues to get a little bit better, and those players that we redshirted last year that we could have had coming off of the bench can actually play for us now. But our leading scorer in the last 2 years, Chandler Piggy, is now a senior, so this is his final year playing for Harvard. I'm also not dealing with a tough non-conference schedule. I will remove as many hard games as I want to. And with all of our training focus going to our starters, I really need us to have a good year. To my surprise, there's actually a couple 3 stars that are interested in playing for us, but we have like no points to go after them. And that really stinks because I'd love to have somebody like Andrew Beatty, but we only have 46 points to spend, and even sending him a package is 15. On the bright side, our team overall is a B+, which means we should be able to do decent. And with our player progression, no player in our starting lineups below a 75 overall, with the leading player still being Malik Mack. We also have some points we can spend in Coach Pride. We're actually going to improve our practice gym by not just 1, but by the 2 that we have. This gives us our first nice looking building. And clearly having a half-court offense didn't go well last season, so we're going to go to balance. I put Southern Miss on the schedule so we could start the year with a win, but we also started this game down like 11-0. And I'm glad that it seems like we have bounced back. We might have a little bit of momentum going into the rest of the year. I tried my best to make this non-conference slate more manageable. Of course, we're still going to pick up a loss there. We have beat VMI. We've beaten another team. And for progress in recruiting, the second I even see high interest on a player, I'm just going to go in and offer a scholarship because we can't spend points continuing to pursue him. I'm not sure if that's going to work out for us or not, but I just love to see winning results. We have been waiting for this moment. And there it is. We have 2-star Paul McDonald, though now we have to go after another shooting guard, and we might be able to get Colin Cribbs too. I am going to fully send the house on him. We have 25 points remaining. We're going to use 24 of them for a head coach visit on playing time. And let's see what he said to our scholarship offer. I appreciate it, but I'm not ready to make a decision yet. That was the rest of our recruiting resources. He still wants to explore his other options while we haven't even cracked the top 6. And that's probably the worst news that we could have gotten during this non-conference period. As we prepare to start conference play, we're currently sitting at 9-6. And if you compare that to the rest of our conference, it's not too bad, except Yale is ranked inside the top 25, and Columbia and Penn are also having good years. When I compare our roster to theirs, it's still a step behind them, which means we're going to have a hard time taking them down. But if we manage to pull this off, that would set us up nicely the rest of the year. It looks like it might be close here at the end. I really wish that hopping into the game actually worked and it didn't just crash it, because we're going to lose by 6. And as we started to drop some of our other conference games, I just realized we're not going to compete for the regular season conference title this year. I mean, we're losing to basically everybody. So I just had to be willing to accept another season where we're going to be pretty mediocre. Beating Princeton isn't happening. And if we're not even going to come close to competing for conference titles, there is no reason for me to hop into any games. One thing I was not expecting was the Ivy to become a 2-bid league, but Princeton beat Michigan State in the first round. They upset a 3 seed, and then Yale came in as an 8 seed, again winning their first round matchup. Neither team was able to make too deep of a run, but the Ivy League won their first round games in the tournament. Kentucky wins another national title. And I don't feel bad for not being able to compete in our conference at the moment because we have teams that are literally winning tournament games. I actually feel really fortunate we're not experiencing many transfers. We are losing Okapara and Chandler Piggy to graduation, which I'm not gonna lie, kinda stinks. Malik Mack has been more of a disappointment, while our better guard Piggy is now gone off the team for next year. But it looks like with our 2 scholarships available, we have 144 points to spend in off-season recruiting, and if we could get these 2 3-stars, that'd be big. Straight out of Connecticut, we have small forward Jeremy Leung, pretty much Jeremy Lin at this point, and I'll be having him on a visit, pitching to him location, trying to get him to come to Harvard. After a week, it looks like his interest in our school has risen. I still haven't offered him a scholarship, but I think this week is the time that we offer him one. And since location isn't a big factor in Jeremy's decision, I'm gonna pitch him on playing time. However, he says he's nowhere near close to making a decision yet, that he has to decline my offer for now. I'm just sending these shots out, basically shooting from full court because we're not in his top 6. And I finally found exactly what I was looking for. He says the biggest factor will be who can offer him the most playing time. We aren't just gonna pitch him myself on playing time. We are gonna take every possible opportunity with phone calls and assistant coaches to pitch him on playing time and offer him a scholarship. So that's our version of sending the house, which actually reduced his interest in the school, and we just picked up a 2-star point guard instead. I feel like I just gotta give up. We're able to sign guards, but nothing else. And after Malik Mack graduates this next season, we're pretty much left with nothing. The season after that, when Thomas Beatties and Tim Butts go, we're in trouble. I can't figure out how to change player positions on here, but I rearranged the lineup to have 2 small forwards on the court, 2 centers. And for the first time in the season preview, we're projected to finish 5th in the conference, not 6th, but our overall is so much lower than the rest. I do like our starters rating is at an A though. We have 93 points to spend instead of like 46. I'm not sure how that doubled, but maybe we're starting to figure things out, and I think I have to cut the walk-ons to get more available scholarships. Theoretically, they shouldn't be taking up a couple spots, but they are. And if our starters aren't going to improve that much more anyway, we're just going to focus on our reserves. My goal for the non-conference schedule was literally make it as easy as I possibly could. If we lose more than 4 games during it, I'm going to be upset. And we really need to sign a power forward, but there's only a couple 2-stars even interested in coming to our school, so that's not happening. You can see I've stacked the cards in our favor though. We're about to play against some really bad schools. And ideally I get to hop into some games this year because this is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for the moment that Malik Mack is a senior at his highest overall. We ended up losing that first game though. We have Albany on our schedule twice because I thought it'd be an easy win. I don't know how they got on there twice, but it's just the fact we couldn't even beat Canisius. I am so annoyed. I don't know what it's going to take to get Harvard out of the bottom of the Ivy League even. We're just offering scholarships to 2-stars. It's the best we can do. And I might have messed up our schedule having 4 games back to back to back to back, but if we get on a 4-game winning streak here somehow, that would have been nice. During that time frame, we were able to sign Hoover at point guard, but we need to get some big men in here. Tyson Henderson, I think we're going to be able to offer him a visit. We can invite him to a game against one of these terrible teams. And we've already reached 6-4, so we lost more than 3 of our non-conference games, but we won the visit week game, which could be important. We've been able to sign 2 guys during the regular season. Now we're going to have to sign 2 guys during the off season. And just like last year, to start conference play, we're going to go into it with a 9-6 record, but I know some of these teams are going to have better rosters than ours. At least Dartmouth should be a free win to open up Ivy League play, and I swear if we lose this, then the rest of the year is just doomed. It looks like here in the second half though, we were able to close things out. And after that game, we would lose to Columbia by 10, but we're about to face them again, this time on their home court, and it's one that I'm actually considering hopping into because it's such a big matchup. However, whenever we actually jumped into it, their court looked like this, so we're not going to play. And maybe I'm just saving my time. There is some weird stuff with this modded game that happens. We can still see what happens in Simcast, a little bit more of a breakdown of it. And I really don't want to confirm that we blew a 20-point lead in the second half. Columbia's kept it kind of close, where they took over in the end and won by 4. This entire rebuild might just be over before I even get to start. I mean, we're just losing conference game after conference game after conference game after conference game. And I genuinely don't even know what to do differently. I mean, we're losing like everything. We might be making progress with a 12-17 record, but it really doesn't feel like it. And I really can't say Malik Mack is even going to be missed. He didn't ever do too much for us scoring-wise throughout his career. Assist per game only 4. It's Tim Butts that's averaging a double-double, which is great and all, but I want us to make it to the NCAA tournament. Brown was the team out of our conference that did this year. They were a 14 seed. They lost to Kansas in the first round. It looks like Arizona's going to win the entire thing. And so far, we have two stars committed, but that's going to be it. I've experienced a lot of players transferring out more than we are with Harvard, though, which is a really good thing. Malik Mack graduating never helps. But it is what it is. We have some 2-star power forwards to choose from in recruiting, and this is a great option. I have 5 power forwards I was able to scout and watch their game for. I'm actually going to watch the game of the other 2 because it reveals player overall. And since we already know Eric Crawford's going to be a C-, I'm assuming he's one of the highest 2 we're going to get. 355th in the country as a 2-star. He's getting a scholarship. It wasn't too challenging to get him to commit, but now we have to decide between one of these other power forwards. They're all basically the same player, basically the same height. And I find it hilarious. They're saying some of these 2-stars got like 2 years, 1 year of college ball before going pro. Basically, all of them have an F outside game besides Jack Emery. He is a C+. And that's why he's going to become the other power forward that we sign in this class. He's only going to come in as a 64 overall. It looks like 2 stars can cap out around a 67. But my hope has been the rest of the Ivy Leagues not signing many 3-stars, which they haven't been. So over time, we should have the better roster versus these other schools. I also try and make sure that any freshman gets redshirted that first year, just so they have an extra year development with us. If you take a look at our current starting lineup, we still have the 2 centers out there, the 2 small forwards, and there's actually going to be 3 seniors on the court. But I think it's to our benefit. For the first time, we've been projected to win the Ivy League, and you have seen us have like no success until now. So I think what's starting to happen is those 3-stars we recruited at the very beginning are actually shining through. And this is still a relatively young team. We have 6 freshmen and 3 sophomores. But every year we need to sign 3 more players, and there's only 1 2-star and 1 3-star interested in Harvard at the start of the year. It's pretty scary stuff. Our only recruiting objective has continued to be sign a 2-star recruit. And for the first time in this rebuild, we have an A- offense, so maybe that'll carry us to a better season. Last season, we opened up the year with a loss against a team that we really should have beat. And so this year, I just wanted to monitor it a bit closer as we have destroyed Abilene Christian. This is exactly what we needed. 35 points to be specific out of senior small forward Thomas Baddies II. And I really want to have a player average 20 points per game since we still have yet to complete a single challenge in this video. But I can only assume that as we sim through the year, that average is going to fall. Whenever it comes to recruiting, we are moving up the ladder on Dan Keller. The 3-star small forward is giving us a chance. But unfortunately, because he's from North Carolina, each one of these recruiting actions cost a little bit more, and I just got to pitch playing time. I feel like if we're going to start getting some 3-star commits again, that is what we have to offer them, because anyone else that's committed in recent memory has been 2-stars. So they should feel confident they'd start over everybody on the roster, but I guess that's why playing time is not one of his hot button issues. Maybe an unofficial school visit, though, will make him want to come to Harvard a bit more. I'm going to offer him a scholarship for the first time, too. And that should boost up his raw interest in our program. All you're going to see on the schedule is W's, but there was one hidden game not popping up you couldn't see, and it's where we lost by 1 point to Pacific. Either way, I'm feeling really good about this season versus the other ones. We've gotten up to high interest on Dan Keller, still not in that top 6. But a week later, we've been able to get up to highest interest, so even if we still cannot crack that top 6, we can't figure out what he cares about, I am going to offer him a scholarship and just send it. You can only offer players a scholarship twice. If he declines our second offer, then we're not going to get him. I've made up my mind, coach. I'm headed to Harvard. We have signed a 3-star again, and we're so back. I know nothing about Dan Keller besides the fact that he's ranked 152nd in the country, which I will 100% take. As we finish out the rest of our non-conference slate, we're going to be 13-2 with another 1-point loss, this time to Idaho. But that's okay. We have the best record in the conference, up there with Dartmouth, and we were at the bottom of the conference with them a few years ago. Now, I'm sure there's some teams we need to be worried about competing for that conference title. It won't be Brown, but I'm curious to see how we do in these road games, because if they're able to keep it close, then we're going to have to deal with that against every other team. I would love if we could just run away with the Ivy League title. You can see that we beat them by 24, but I just have this feeling that as we get through the year, we're going to fall to teams we shouldn't. As we approach the end of February, I'm feeling pretty good, though we just picked up our first loss, and it was by 3 points to Yale, but we also had a lot of close wins earlier on in the month that could have gone way differently. At the moment, we're 1 game ahead of Penn. Remember, if we can just win the regular season title, we'll get an automatic tournament bid. And so I'm simming to that next game against Penn, where it looks like we're going to be able to win both those matchups. And that means going into this one on the road, we're in the best position possible. We're ahead by 2 games, so if we win this, we'd pretty much lock in our spot to make in the tournament. And I still haven't noticed any major injuries throughout this entire rebuild. That makes me feel pretty good. Our lineup of having 2 centers out there and 2 small forwards is actually working. And as we go into this one, we're averaging 11 more points per game than Penn. It looks like their court is also loaded, which is good. I did not want to have to deal with loading into a game with another black court. I wanted to play this matchup. And we have Tim Butts at center. You remember me recruiting him in year number 1. Well, now he's out there on the court leading our team in field goal percentage. I thought that was about to say free throw percentage, and I was going to be shocked. He hits the first bucket of the game. There's a packed house here at Penn. He's going to miss the second free throw, but we probably have a long game ahead of us, and they're hitting that. One thing we know is we have a couple guys on our team with 99 three-pointers, so we should be able to just pull it, but they could have that same type of talent on their roster. I was trying to force a steal, but I left them open. This is such an important game for us. They've gone for the drive. They've drawn a foul, and I've been doing this rebuild for way too long for us to lose our chance at winning the conference now. At the moment, Harvard's nowhere near being a championship contender, but we will never be able to make any progress toward it if we're not able to beat Penn in this matchup. I will say, I haven't done a great job scoring in this game, but we're going to let Butts go to work, and if we could just force a steal, get a block or something, that'd be nice. I'm playing on one of the hardest difficulties, so that's why you might see me struggling, but that's because I want to feel like I've earned a championship and we've gotten the block. We're out in transition. If Buckley can run the court, we would have been able to go ahead. You know what? We're just going to pull this from deep. I made the right decision in season number 1, redshirting those point guards. They've been very effective for us. And as we go into halftime, it's going to be tied up. They've shot worse from the field than we have, but I haven't really done the best offensively. We're going to have to take this open corner 3 that misses. We grab the rebound with Butts and he puts it in. I feel like every time we do something right though, they're able to respond back. I'm trying to get a little bit of separation and just rip one from deep. And then we're going to be able to force them out of bounds with the steal, which is huge because right now we're trailing by 2. We're going to have an open 3-point shot that misses. And this is not the time for us to get cold, but we're definitely cold from the field. I don't even know what I should do offensively right now. I mean, we know that this is one of our best 3-point shooters, but he had missed like 4 in a row for me. We're going to force the steal. We're going to pick it up with Beatties the second and running the court. We slam it in their face. This is it. This is when Harvard becomes the Ivy League champion. We just need this economics major to not be a good free throw shooter, which is not likely. He's a guard. Even if he's wearing number 44, they can normally hit these shots consistently. And I've gone down low to Butts. They're going to continue to go for the double team every time that we do it. And now he's limping down the court, which is not good. We cannot have him be injured in this final couple minutes. Fortunately, they ended up getting no points out of that possession. They're going for the double team, which seemed really foolish, but we had to grab this rebound, put it up, and still miss. You can see we're really struggling here at the end. That was great defense and a great rebound from Nesbitt. And I've worked it down low to Joseph. We have the backdoor cut. Please just go in. Tim Butts is going to the line with 2 free throws. I really needed that one to fall. And this is exactly why. Free throws matter so much, but I'm so bad at shooting them on this game. I mean, it's not like he's a great free throw shooter. They had way too much space to get that shot off. Thankfully, we've gotten the board. And I'm trying my best to dribble out the rest of the clock. I do not want them to have a chance at getting it back, which we have pretty much done. And we ended up not ever even going to the free throw line, which is great. Tim Butts won player of the game, which was probably because of his rebounds. We didn't do much offensively. Now, as long as we win one of these final 3 games, we are going to make it to the tournament. I don't love that we just lost to Princeton, though. We know Yale beat us earlier on in the year. They're going to do it again. But fortunately, they picked up another loss, so even if we do drop this final game, we have the tiebreaker over Penn. And I don't think we'd lose to Columbia anyway. I would rather just see us win this game, though. I don't trust this game to make the tiebreaker actually work. And for a while, I was pretty nervous. It looks like they're going to keep it close in the end, but they're not going to beat us. Well, talk about quite the turnaround we just saw out of Harvard. I knew at some point the other teams in our conference would have to fall off from the rosters they inherited, and they didn't recruit better than us, which is why we were finally able to have a pretty good season. Statistically, we still haven't seen someone average 20 points per game. Thomas Beatties II was 2.2 points per game under that. Tim Butts had his double-double again, and he started every season for us since committing as a freshman, getting better each year, but he's always averaged about the same amount of rebounds. I'm just thrilled we were able to make it this far. It is time for the selection show to see where we ended up getting in the tournament. Kentucky's a 1 seed. They've been that extremely consistently, and we're the 16 seed that's going to have to play them in the first round. We could have gotten a way better draw than this, that's for sure. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm just happy that we made it to this point. It is no longer going to be the ESPN intro. We are now on the CBS one. This is what it's going to look like. And that means it's March. Boston College gets the winner of this game, and our starting lineup gets a cool little display. Of course, Thomas Beatties II is our shooting guard. And you never know what could could happen in this matchup. I mean, we're winning the tip-off. We don't seem to be undersized versus them. I'm going to throw up a 3 right off the rip, even if they get a hand in our face, because if we're shooting those well, that's what would win us this game, though they're not hitting their shots either. It'd be really nice if we could get to the rim and like draw a foul or something, but we airballed a layup. And this is like one of my least favorite rosters I think I've ever built on this game. We're literally starting 2 centers out there on the court, which makes it really hard to score, though we can get some boards. And we also have 2 small forwards out there, though one of them does shoot threes pretty well. So that's the only reason it doesn't really bug me. He's going to be fading away on this shot. And I will say, after doing a couple videos on College Hoops 2K8, this gameplay is pretty rough compared to it. But I started a Harvard rebuild on there, and the Ivy League conference just didn't work at all. It would just put a random team into the tournament, not a team that actually won the conference regular season title. And that's why I'm back on NCAA Basketball 10 with the March Madness Legacy mod, which just updates all the jerseys and stuff. They've thrown it straight to us there. I'm a pull up in transition and still miss. And that's with a kid that has 99 3-pointer. It's the difficulty kicking in, though I know how to play defense. I will say, normally it is not this brutal, where a team only scores 4 points in the first half. But if we're able to keep this up, we might be on our way to upsetting Kentucky. We just finished the first half really strong putting that in. And all of our success so far has come from underneath. Will we be able to keep this up? Probably not, but I'd be more upset if the game crashed. And there it is. They've already been able to get onto the board in this second half, but we'll keep on going low. We might as well just pull up from this far out as well if no one's gonna guard us from there. And I've been extremely surprised at how bad Kentucky's playing offensively in this. I better not see any jokes in the comments about how this is how they normally play in their tournament games. I'm really hoping March goes differently this year. And it is starting to feel like we're about to pull off the upset against a 1 seed, though they keep it within 5. They also got a bucket on their next possession, but they have their guard on Tim Butts. He's going to be able to put up a shot that we are able to rebound, and that should go in, but it doesn't. This is how we blow games right here. We did force the steal, though. That's pretty big. I'm going to start running down some clock. And I called a play where we were able to get it down low, and then we messed up and threw a pass straight to him. That led to them drawing a foul with Hank Thomas. He isn't going to miss either of these free throws. He's 94% from the line. And so now what I'm hoping is that we can hit another 3, which we did. Back up by 4, minute and a half left on the clock. It has been our suffocating defense that has saved us. And there might have been some foul calls in there, some missed steal attempts, but they just got rejected by the backboard. This is it. The final minute of this game. We've worked it down low. They're not falling for the pump fake at all. And now they've run it down the court to draw a foul against us. Nathan Blake is also 94% from the line, so we know what'll happen. And it looks like they're trying to trap us potentially, which they've done pretty well right here. If we work it around, though, we're going to have an open 3-point shot that we can hit. That's a game-winning shot right there that I would take, assuming we can hold on to this lead, not give up any threes. I am glad that kid can't shoot them. And they've been able to take a 2 that they're going to miss. That was all that we needed. Now we are going to have what it takes to dribble out the rest of the clock. We're going to upset number 1 Kentucky, at least assuming this pass goes well, because we still needed to get off like another 5 seconds. But this is much better than letting the computer foul us like 10 times in a row and then shooting a free throw. So there it is. We have done it. We've beaten one of the favorites to win the entire thing. And it's all because of Thomas Beatties II, who shot really well. I hate to see Kentucky in pain. I hope that our March Madness run goes for quite a while. But for this rebuild, we really needed a moment like that, and we did hit a game winner, so that knocks off our first challenge. I was more hoping for like a buzzer beater game winner, but it was a game winning shot, which is what the challenge said. And here's the thing. After this season, we will no longer have anybody that is a 99 3-point shooter. That means the only reason we probably just upset Kentucky is not going to be there to help us. The rosters that people created for this game had a lot of 99 3-point shooters on it. But after this year, they're all gone. It also applies to other teams, though. They have this same advantage. We just use it a bit better, and we're going to struggle until this bucket. I would absolutely love if we made a run to the Sweet 16. That would be great. And with the way that we're playing defense, I do think it's possible for us to do, but we are going to have to find a way to put up a decent amount of offensive points, and it won't come from the line. Once a team starts to shoot well against us, that's where we're going to have issues. But so far, we really haven't experienced that yet. They're going for the trap, leaving him open in the corner. And it feels like things are still going well for us, but they're about to take a lead. Ever since that 3-pointer, they had a better last couple of minutes, but we might be able to get another. And Nesbitt has been a miracle worker for us. Tim Butts down low is going to lose the ball straight into the hands of our center. So I'd say this first half's working out pretty well, especially since we just forced a steal, and we should be able to get another bucket. To end the half, we're going gonna put up a deep three-pointer, and we're gonna splash it. So I take back everything I said about our offense. We're playing great, 17 points. I mean, they're also just playing atrocious defense. But you know what it is? Teams just aren't scoring against us. They just hit the side of the backboard. Our big, tall lineup has really worked out for us. That was a great pass. And I am stuck on the bottom of the court with Nesbitt. It took them forever to find someone open, but we still blocked them. So I think it's pretty clear that we're gonna be able to run away with it at the end. They're calling a timeout down by 14, and they were never able to score again. We have done it as a 16 seed. We have made a run to the Sweet 16. And I really think it's because of our huge lineup. Until we run into a team that has size like we do, I think we're gonna be okay. Colorado State beat Michigan as well. And that makes me think that we could somehow get to the Elite Eight. They did go 30-4 this season though, so they've also had a pretty good year. And look at all this size. We have 6'7", 7'1", 6'11", 6'6". Well, they have a couple decently tall guards, but not the size they need. I'm excited for this game, seeing how we're gonna do. We have drawn a foul, and Tyson Joseph is a little bit better of a free throw shooter, which is why we were able to hit those. But their offense hasn't been terrible so far, which is why I want those looks at three. It might not be going in for us right now, but I can expect at some point it probably will. That's a great defensive stop. And that led to us getting two, but they're gonna make that crazy shot. Ray Murphy shoots 37% from the field. That should never go in. And now they've decided to come out pressing, but we can break that down. The problem though is we keep on sending them to the line, and now they're coming out in some sort of press, which means we can just throw over top and we have a chance to tie things up. This is a pretty good offensive first half for us as well. But Colorado State's basically scored more points than any other team we have played so far. Tim Butts does not care though. We're going to be able to take a lead. And I wish I could say that was enough for us to have a lead going into the half as well, but we just lost the ball there. They're going to throw up a prayer. And Colorado State's actually beaten us by one. We have tried to do all that we can against them. This isn't a great look, but if we can draw a foul to start the second half, that gives us a chance to take the lead back. And tell me, how can Nesbitt have such a tiny little area on his free throw shot, but have a 99 three-pointer? It just doesn't make sense. With their offense performing like this though, what we needed was to not just throw the ball away. And sure enough, that led to them hitting a jumper in our face. We are being extremely careless with this ball. As we approach these final couple minutes, I don't necessarily want to jack up a three-pointer because that's what I would normally do. But it's starting to turn into our best option, especially since, once again, they're at the line. They're still coming out pretty aggressively with this press too. You've got to be kidding. Nesbitt just threw the game away for no good reason at all. I was trying to force a steal here. At least we're getting it back. And there's only two people that we can trust in this situation. That is one of them. We might just have to lean on somebody else though to hit a three. And they're running the court. They're going to draw another foul. I'm really just hoping that a clean look can put us back in it. It doesn't. And down by 8 with 30 seconds left, unless we force a steal or something, this one's over. They're already warming up the bus. But this one's on me. I played a terrible second half. We're not going to be able to close it out. And our run with Harvard is going to end with Colorado State of all teams. I can't take away from the fact that they were good though. Duke ended up beating them to make it to the Final Four, where Auburn won the entire thing over BYU. And Dan Keller went from a 3-star prospect to a 4-star prospect because he's made it to the top 150. This is a huge signing for us. He was only supposed to be a 3-star recruit, but I forgot that they can change their ranking. And if you thought the challenges list stuff was over, it's not. The Atlantic 10 has extended an invitation for Harvard to replace St. Bonaventure for the upcoming year. We're going to accept it. In the matter of just seconds, we have completed 2 challenges that I was not expecting. But this team's probably going to take a step back because Tim Butts has graduated, Thomas Beatty's the second has graduated, Xavier Nesbitt graduated. Those were the 3 main players in our run. We also have this player trying to transfer out. And he's telling me not to rush him because it's going to affect him for the rest of his life. Just go take your 100K somewhere else. We don't need to pay to keep that kid around. With our new conference and with our tournament success, I was expecting a few 3-stars to be interested in playing for us. And the math works out perfectly. We have 3 available scholarships. I also just noticed we have 384 points to spend in this period. And what I've been able to figure out from our list of targets is we have a couple C- overalls, 2 stars we could get if these 3 stars don't choose our school, but we're in their top 6. And we're going to be able to offer them scholarships plus pitch them on playing time. That apparently was only enough for Anku Jack though. We lost out on this point guard Derek Pitt to Michigan State. And I don't think we're getting the shooting guard from Wyoming either. We're not in his top 6, plus our pitches aren't really hitting with him. At the end of the day, he didn't even care about playing time. And so we're only going to sign 2 players and we're going to carry over to next season hoping more 3-stars are interested. If we don't need to, there's no reason to waste that final scholarship scholarship, especially since we have a 71 and 73 overall in this class. And you can tell Harvard basketball's on the come up because we've gotten our first invitation to a preseason tournament. To my surprise, we're also projected to win the Atlantic 10 Conference. This is going to give us a much better chance at making the tournament in general, plus there's a conference tournament for us to win. And we have almost 200 recruiting points to spend with 3 scholarships available. With no 3-point sharpshooters on the team anymore, we really have to focus on shooting. And if there's any position we need specifically, it's definitely point guard. By cutting this walk-on, we should be able to get at least one more scholarship available. And I wasn't really expecting true freshman Anku Jack to just start off the rip, but he's going to be out there alongside a lot of other seniors and Eric Hughes. It's also important to note, our school pride is maxed out 5 stars. They're pumped up about the run we were on. Our team prestige is only a 2-star. But we have unlocked 2 more upgrades, so what we can do is max out our practice gym, and that would give us +4 to all those stats. I'm also going to name one of our campus roads after Tim Butts since he led us on that miraculous run. And I really thought more 3-stars were going to be interested in coming to Harvard, but there's none. It's just a bunch of 2-stars for us to look through. I've also started to compare our roster to other teams in our conference like VCU, and what I've noticed is each team usually has a player that's like an 85 overall plus. And that's a pretty big problem because our best players are Tyson Joseph and Larry Buckley. We aren't really built for the conference that we just joined. To open up the year, we're picking up a win, which is great. Gardner-Webb we're also going to beat. I think we just made it to a championship. And we did. We were the 8 seed coming into this, but now it's going to be us or Texas State winning the battle for Atlantis. To be honest, it should be us. We have the better team on paper. But we'll see what ends up happening in Sim. I'm not really sure if these preseason tournament results matter or not, but we beat them by 2. And on top of that, I did my scouting this year with the 2-stars on our board. If they have a D+ overall, we're going to be offering them a scholarship. That was literally all it took to sign those 3 players. We still have 1 available scholarship to use in the offseason, but now we can just sim through the rest of the year. We beat Virginia, which caught me off guard, but we have also started to pick up some losses since we're playing better programs. And it looks like by the time we're getting to conference play, we're going to be at 6 and 7. I can understand that though. We were supposed to take a step back. VCU, who had one of the really good players in the conference, is at 8 and 4. And one thing I've picked up on, the real key to succeeding in these NCAA basketball rebuilds is just time. We need to spend a lot of time in this rebuild. We need to get a lot of years into the future, so each individual season doesn't mean as much. Yeah, it was definitely cool we made a good run in last March Madness, but we immediately joined a better conference, and we have immediately been humbled by that, which is exactly why we're going to be sitting mid-table as we go into this final stretch of games. And whether or not we finish this season above 500 really comes down to these final 2 matchups. We're going to see what happens in the last one. It is going to be a loss. But again, it's a mid-table finish. I don't think going 15 and 15 is the end of the world. There's just teams like Dayton that need to move on to a bigger conference. Whenever it comes to our season stats, Tyson Joseph and Larry Buckley led the way, both of the seniors that are going to be graduating. And if we ever want to get a first round bye in our conference tournament, we're going to have to finish in the top 4. At least our first round opponent's George Washington, nothing too challenging, and we should be able to beat them, but then the next round is where things get tough. We might not even pull away at the end here though. It was pretty close for a while. It looks like we did. And on paper, St. Joe's roster is pretty similar to ours. If we could get past them though, we would be into the quarterfinals. I will play anytime we get to the conference championship, but I think it's going to be multiple seasons until that happens again, and we need to build this roster up before it's really a contender. It would be nice to see us make a run. We might even pull off the upset here. It's going to be close down to the wire. But if that's how our season ends, it's not the end of the world. St. Joe's was a good team. They just lost to VCU in the conference championship. At the beginning of this season, we saw the type of roster VCU had. That's the type of roster we're going to have if we want to win a championship. Gonzaga still has not gotten their title. And when it comes to these verbal agreements, nobody's gone up to a 3-star, but I'm okay with signing all of them. That was our last chance to back out. You're going to see one of our power forwards backing out. The sophomore Eric Crawford is transferring because we just brought in a freshman that's better. And every year it gives me a chance to try and convince players to stay, but it has never worked for me. That's okay though. It's just going to open up another scholarship for us to use during off-season recruiting, a bunch of 2-stars to choose from again, and even the occasional 3-star. I hope we can land Chris Ward. It looks like we're going to go up to highest interest on his board, which is a really good thing. We're not in the top 6, but I'll offer him his first scholarship. And I also want to just start promising playing time. It didn't work last year. Maybe it will this season. Then at power forward, we have 2 different players I scouted that are both a C- overall. But I've decided to avoid Tyson Pearson because he's 2 inches shorter, and it says he's a very average player with limited skills and range, plus he thinks he can go pro after 1 year. This is Harvard. We need to recruit smarter players. As you can see, Chris Ward and Derek Lawrence have accepted their scholarship. And I put a lot of emphasis on that, but all these players coming in are between a 65 and 68 overall. Unless we can start to sign a bunch of 3-stars again, it's going to be really hard to win our conference. But I will say, we might have a bright future because I just recruited an entire starting lineup, so we're going to be able to redshirt them over the next couple years, keep them around for 5 years each. And then for the guys starting right now, we have a lot of sophomores out there on the court, and then both of our guards are juniors. We really have a super young roster because we have 6 freshmen and 5 sophomores. We have 2 seniors and 2 juniors coming up, which means we can focus on some players in recruiting. And all I need is 2 3-stars to really lock in going after, which we have found that in point guard Joe Russell. I'm excited because we're literally starting in his top 5, and then we're also going after a 2-star shooting guard, Jared Carson. But even if he's a 2-star prospect, he's ranked 374th nationally. He could become a 3-star, and it's just going to cost a lot to scout him because he's in Hawaii. That would be an extremely long flight from Cambridge, Massachusetts. At least we've gotten a win to open up the year. We always beat ACU. This time it didn't happen. We're going to lose to Alabama A&M. And if we're in first place for Joe Russell, we might as well just go ahead and offer this kid a scholarship before he changes his mind. I'm also going to do it. I'm going to spend 42 of our 105 remaining points scouting Jared Carson, just to see if he's worth bringing in as well. We won the battle for Atlantis last season. I'm hoping that we can do it again this year to prove that we have not regressed. And sure enough, we came in as a higher seed, making our run all the way to the championship against 1-seeded Sam Houston, who is going to be a C overall. Our team is 100% gotten a little bit worse, but they're also not better than we are. At least they weren't supposed to be. We saw last year winning this tournament didn't mean much. We're going to fall by 2. And Joe Russell has signed to Harvard, while Jared Carson is a C- overall. We might as well bring him in too. With recruiting out of the way, I'm going to have no shame just simming through the rest of the season like we did last year. I told you all, we need to get like 15 years down the line before we're a contender. And I don't know why our non-conference games were spaced so weirdly, but this time to start conference play, we're going to be 7-6 instead of 6-7. And in case you are wondering, the guard from Hawaii did sign with us. Sophomore Dan Keller is also averaging 21 points per game. I was looking at our lineup to see if there's anybody on the bench that should become a starter. But from what I saw, I didn't make any adjustments. It looks like if you look at our schedule, we're having a pretty successful conference season so far. But we haven't played as many games as everybody else. It's really hard to tell if we're going to actually be able to finish inside the top 4, securing a tournament bye. And as time's gone on, it's just become clear that we hadn't faced the better teams in our conference yet. It's been a very rough month of February. I want to end it strong against George Mason, but we didn't, and they went 2-16 in conference play. Once again, we did not have a great year. We actually finished 1 game worse than we did last season. But maybe part of this is my fault. We have 3 unlocks available, and I'm just going to max out our weight room so we have a +4 speed, strength, and quickness. We'll take a little boost to our stats. We'd have to play Rhode Island if we won our first round matchup, and they were like the best team in our conference, but those stat boosts just jumped our overall up a bunch. Maybe I didn't factor in how big of an impact school pride can have, because we were like a B+ all year until now we're an A-. And that's kept this game against Loyola Chicago close still, but this is their month. We're only supposed to win by 2. I really feel like with those stat upgrades though, we have a chance at taking down the Rams. And even if we don't pull this off, remember, next year we return with this starting lineup, nobody's leaving. If our season ends right now, I'm feeling so good about next year. It looks like they are going to beat us by about 10. That's okay. Next year's roster's the one to make the real difference. Rhode Island was the team that won the conference tournament. And statistically, it has been done. We have a player that's averaged over 20 points per game. Dan Keller's only a sophomore, but he has been a beast. If we're really lucky, he could also turn into a player that's drafted into the NBA. But I don't like the seeding we're getting in the tournament. If we had a year as good as Rhode Island, we would only be a 13 seed. We might have been better off just staying in the Ivy League. They were doing better in the tournament. It looks like UCLA is going to win it all. And Jared Carson never became a 3-star prospect, so I'm kind of wondering if we should just let him go and try to sign somebody else. I decided not to do that, and now I'm glad that I did, because we had a point guard transfer out, so we're going to have an extra scholarship available anyway. And it looks like with 60 recruiting points and very cheap visits, we might be able to get him to stay. But I can only imagine that at some point he's just going to say he has to take his game to another school. I just don't think you can convince a transfer to come back, but it's okay. There's a 7-foot 3-star center that wants to come to our school from Lexington, Ohio. And just in case these 2 stars were a higher overall, I scouted them, but we're going after Connor Gordon. This is who we need. He wanted to play for us. It couldn't have been easier to get him to sign. And you all know my formula at this point. If they haven't used their redshirt year, then no matter how good they are coming in, they probably should. There's been a couple exceptions to the rule, but that's how you end up with players like Anku Jack and Dan Keller graduating a year early. And we're supposed to be one of the best teams in the conference. We have A- starters. The only roster that is technically better than us on paper is VCU's. But I'm just not sure if I believe that, and we are only focusing on targeting our reserves with training and also on their shooting. Again, this is a pretty young team. We have 7 freshmen. 3 of those will be redshirt freshmen next year. And what I've pretty quickly figured out is since I didn't really focus on our starters getting work during the preseason, guys like Dan Keller didn't go up in overall at all for shooting, but he still did for offense. I really don't understand player progression in this game, but I'm excited to see how this roster does since it's a big step step up from last year's. Everybody got a little bit better, and we are an A- overall team across the board. In my opinion, there's no reason we shouldn't win Battle for Atlantis. We keep on getting invited back, though Georgetown was a part of it and we took them down. And it looks like they actually made it tough on us this year because we have to play LSU in the championship. We actually stack up pretty good versus their roster though. And that's why I've been saying the farther that we can get into this dynasty, the easier it'll be for us to win a championship. Right now, we're competing against SEC schools. We beat them by 7. And it's not like they're great at basketball, but that's a win in my books. As you can see, C- seems to be the highest rated a 2-star recruit can be. And that's why I'm so excited that once again, there's a 3-star that is willing to take a chance, come to Harvard. But I had to pick a 2-star small forward to go after as well. And that's why we're going with Myron. It says his 3-point shot is pretty average, and then we can just train it to get better. I actually like how straightforward recruiting has become. We were able to sign both of them, and now we're ready to just simulate to the end of the season where we are still undefeated, but I know at some point we're gonna lose. I really wasn't expecting us to drop as many games as we did though. I guess it makes sense. We're not anywhere near a perfect team yet, but we are one of the best teams in our conference. VCU is just gonna be hard to beat. I'm just really hoping that as we get through this conference season, we have a much better year. And I'd say so far so good, though we just picked up our 2nd loss, and VCU is one of those tough teams we're gonna have to face who's also gonna beat us. Midway through the year though, there is no clear first place team in our conference. We're very close to being tied for first place, and it looks like our RPI is currently sitting a little bit above 100. I feel like the rest of the teams on our schedule though are the teams that are at the bottom of the conference, even if we are losing to Davidson. And with that in mind, I think we're gonna finish top 4 in our conference, but it might come down to this game right here. Well, it literally did. We're sitting at 12-5. That is gonna be enough to get us a first round bye. And it looks like with George Washington winning, we're gonna get to play the first president in the quarterfinals. This is not an opponent I'm too worried about, but getting to the championship might still be difficult. Heck, even beating them hasn't been easy. We had to pull away at the end to put them away. And it looks like Richmond, the 1 seed, was able to win. I'm hoping that on paper we have the better team, which we do. So once again, we're just gonna sim and hope for the best. It came down to the wire. Dan Keller scored 30 points, but we lost 82-80. And it turns out Richmond went on to win the entire thing by 2 points in their 2nd consecutive game. I would have played the championship, but we couldn't even get there. They're gonna be a 14 seed. And it might feel like a waste of a season, but Dan Keller still has 1 more year left in him, and that's when I really hope we make it to the conference championship. Don't get me wrong, there's gonna be a couple of big pieces like Eric Hughes who are graduating I wish we could have sticking around. But we gotta keep things moving. Richmond just got beat by 50 points by UCLA, so it is gonna be a while before we can compete for a championship. Kentucky won it all for the 3rd time in this video. And it looks like we did get Myron up to a 3-star prospect, so we're just gonna go ahead and sign both of them. He was a 2-star when we first looked at him. What I've pretty much been able to guarantee though is somebody transfers out every year. This time it's gonna be Sam Weathers, a 75 overall. He doesn't want to stick around, unfortunately. And these losses have got to be hurting us, even if we can replace him with a 5'9" point guard. We really don't need another one, but it's a C- overall versus a C overall, and I am trying to get as many high overall players on this team as I can. So it's no question we signed the short kid out of Arkansas. And it looks like we have finally gotten an invitation to a different preseason tournament. This has got to be the year that we run our conference though. In the Atlantic 10, we have the best overall roster. We also have the best starters versus anyone else. And whenever you consider that we're going to have 4 available scholarships for seniors, the high projections make sense. It's the first time I've actually had an issue trying to get teams to schedule against us. Nobody wants to play us. And that kind of threw me off because we're still an A- overall. We do have 2 more points to spend on Coach Pride though. I can only assume that upgrading our study hall, increasing our offensive and defensive ability is going to make our team much better. And ever since that tournament run, our school pride has remained at 5 stars, but our team prestige won't budge. I'm only going to go after 1 player during the regular season though. I'm waiting till off-season recruiting because I think we're going to have a pretty good year. I want to get this 3-star center now, but fulfilling all those other needs, I think we're going to have a better chance at signing players after we have a good year. The future of this program is in the hands of these 3 seniors and then Chris Ward and Joe Russell, who we've recruited recently. And to start the year, we're going to beat Dartmouth, which shows we've made progress. They were a team that used to beat us in the Ivy League every so often. And coming up on a team like Utah, I was a bit worried, but I shouldn't be. Even though they're part of the Pac-12, they're not that great at basketball. Yet since it's college basketball, they were still able to keep it pretty tight, and you never know whenever you're going to lose a game. You're never going to have a perfect season, which is why I try to avoid the regular season results. We have a chance at winning the NIT though. It's so rare to have a perfect regular season, which is why I don't care about it too much. If we can beat Pepperdine though, we're going to be in the NIT Invitational Championship. And on paper, they're actually worse than Utah. It's pretty remarkable. Without signing any major recruits, we've made as much progress as we have, but we are going to lose to Pepperdine by 6. And when it comes to 3-star center Willie Valentine, I don't think we're going to have any issues getting him to commit, especially after after he sees us beat Alcorn State. All we have to do is not mess this up. We beat them by 11. And with him signed, we just have to worry about 3 more prospects in the offseason. I told you all, I feel pretty comfortable betting on this team this year. We're not going to win every game, but we should find ourselves back in the tournament. And we're actually going to have the best record in the Atlantic 10 as we start conference play. The first month went pretty well too. There was only 1 loss that I saw. We're hoping to start off February pretty well as well. I see a win, I see a loss. And right now we're in a 3-way tie for first place, but if we lose a couple more games, we might miss out on getting that first round bye. It is important to note though, our RPI has gotten up to a 43, so we could make the tournament with an at-large bid. And I think we still have a decent chance of making that happen. There's only 4 games left in the season. This is not where we needed to start losing though, because now we have fallen down in the conference rankings. If we lose 1 more conference game, we're not going to get that first round bye. And our RPI has also fallen, which would put us out of the tournament. Now with an A- roster, I don't think that first round bye is that important. We're going to be able to get to the second round either way, but it's disappointing to see us lose 4 games in a row. And my first thought was, who's injured? It turns out it is Dan Keller. He is not going to be back for a long time. He's done for the rest of his career. And that's what's messed up this season. He was averaging almost 25 points per game. Without him out there in the last 9 matchups, we just fell off a cliff. The biggest issue is we don't really have any other scores at small forward that we can put in to replace him. All the guys on the bench that are the highest overalls are centers or power forwards. And all of a sudden, I think we could be a first round exit. I mean, we went from being near the top of our conference to finishing down at number 6. And I'm just hoping that we can miraculously make a run to the conference championship where then I'll step in and hopefully get us the win. I mean, George Washington was never going to be the team to beat us, but we cannot play that way offensively versus Dayton. I think I'm going to make a change. We're going to switch over to an up-tempo offense. And as we go into this matchup, I did notice that my career record is now above 500. It took me a long time to get to that point, but you're going to see without our scores out there, we just couldn't compete with Dayton. And it's unfortunate because they weren't even good enough to win the conference tournament. It was St. Joe's that did. I'm just so annoyed that was our first injury. I don't even care that we made the NIT tournament. If we lose, so what? There were literally so many other teams from the Atlantic 10 that got into the NIT. Richmond actually made a run to the very end where they won the entire thing over Ohio State. With a healthy team, that could have been us. Did Weber State just win a national championship? Okay, maybe there is some hope for the smaller schools. We're going to sign our 3-star center, but as we get to players leaving, there's going to be one of our freshman point guards transferring out, and it's the one that had a better 3-point shot. He had an 86 3-pointer. We have a lot of points to convince him to stay, but it's not going to happen. And we're also losing Anku Jack, we're losing Dan Keller, so our team's going to take a step back. All it took was 1 injury, and everything I planned for went out the window, though we have a ton of 3-stars that are still interested in signing for us. This is actually massive. And I made sure to scout a few of them where I've been able to find some C+ players and then also some C players. I went ahead and offered some players some scholarships. We ended up signing 2 shooting guards and 2 power forwards. And that's just going to set up our roster even better for the future. But I'm going to have to cut one of those shooting guards, whichever one has a worse 3-point shot. It's kind of funny that recruiting is like girls. Now that we have no scholarships available, now that we're taken, there's no spots for these players. There's unlimited 3-stars that want to join Harvard. So if I'm going to get rid of one of the guards, it's got to be LeVar Cotton. He is now gone, and this is what our starting lineup's going to look like with only players that are juniors or lower. Once we get through preseason training, some of those overalls are probably going to change though. As you can see, the lowest overall is a 73 with true freshman Fred Nelson. That's the shooting guard I kept around. And to be honest, with a team like this, we have such a deep rotation, we could literally get 11 or 12 players in and not have any issues. There's not like that one standout player though, which is why I'm going to use our one available scholarship that we have now to go after a small forward. Sam Jefferson's ranked 162nd in the country. He might be able to get up to a 4-star recruit if we're lucky. So that's what I'm hoping for. We're still an A- team, but there's literally been nothing about our roster that's changed over the last few years. We've stayed about the same overall, so I can understand why we lost to Boston College. With a little bit of scouting, I'm excited for him. He is a B outside game. If we were to compare that to this point guard, Bill Lawrence, who is ranked a little bit higher, his outside game's actually worse. And so the goal is to get him to commit as fast as possible. This could be another season where we don't have the success I'm hoping for though. Sure enough, after skipping over those games though, Sam Jefferson has signed. And what this team's able to do is probably going to be pretty similar to what we've done in recent memory. As we're going into conference play at 8-4, Fordham's actually undefeated, but there's one thing to keep in mind. Our team has 0 seniors. I also have no idea how the Rams are undefeated. They have a C- overall team. But my guess is they played a super easy non-conference schedule because I think overall matters a lot in this game. We're about to destroy them. I don't think record means too much. That's why if we could just get our overall up to like an A, I think we would run through Atlantic 10 conference play. We would be a lock for the tournament every single season, but where we're at an A-, we still have issues. I mean, going into the second half of conference play, we're not even inside the top 4. We have not been playing perfectly. But one thing I've kind of picked up on is if you just sim the season, your results are a lot more random. And then let's say I were to simcast the game against VCU. Well, we are the higher overall team, so if we go into simcast, we're pretty much always going to win. I might need to take that back though. This theory has not been proven yet. They're actually going to beat us by 6. So maybe there's no method to how we're going to find success in our conference. We have one final game against George Mason. If we beat them, we might be able to get the number 1 seed. Or what I meant by that was a first round bye, but we're going to have a tiebreaker versus one of these two teams after they lose. The first round bye is really not my top priority. We should beat whatever team we play first. But sure enough, we're going to get it because we tied with these two teams for 4th place and we don't have a first round game. I don't know what the tiebreaker was. If it's RPI, ours is sitting at 45. And I just noticed we have 4 school pride points to spend. So if we go ahead and start to max out some of these facilities, that's going to bump up our overall even more. In fact, our campus is almost maxed out. All we have to do is upgrade our injuries clinic 2 more times. But we always suffer injuries at the worst time. Chris Ward, our starting shooting guard, is injured and he should be back by the 14th. That means he won't be here for the conference tournament, but he could return after that. And the automatic bid out of the Atlantic 10 is supposed to be Dayton. But I'm hoping we fall under the best of the rest because then we could get a bid into the tournament still, and we don't. We're actually one of those teams that are just on the bubble. I noticed Yale was up here in the Ivy League. We should have just stayed there because so far we've had no luck winning our conference tournament. I just have to trust that we're going to come out on top though. And sure enough, it looks like they're going to pull away at the last second, but they didn't. These games are too close for comfort. Jared Carson came in as our backup shooting guard, scoring the most points. And we might need to keep an eye on the sophomore. He's averaging almost 12 points per game. I was going to say for coming off the bench, that would be pretty impressive, but it has been since Chris Ward got injured. Connor Gordon at center has also been dominating. And we've lucked out so hard. Davidson beat Dayton, so now we have to beat them to get into the conference championship. Maybe we didn't get lucky though. They have an A- overall. And every time I have simmed this game so far, we have come up short. But maybe this year will be our year. You can see how close it's going to be. At the end, we won by 8. All right, we have done it. We have made it to the conference championship. All we have to do now is beat Rhode Island. And once we win this game once, I'll no longer have any issue simming it. It's a new day though, and this is the first one I'm hopping into, so I might be a little bit rusty. We'll just have to see what happens. There's our starting lineup out there. I know we're missing our starting shooting guard, but my hope is even without him on the court, we are able to have a pretty good game offensively as we make the first bucket. That's exactly what you want to see to open it up. That cross though was pretty filthy from that. And the last time I hopped into a game, I know I had a lot of really good 3-point shooters, which helped out offensively. But this time we don't have that, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to hit as many shots. It doesn't help us though that they've been scoring pretty effortlessly so far. I would love a corner 3, and we really needed that, but they're going to respond back, except it rims out. Now we're running down the court. I'm probably going to throw up something dumb, but it's not my fault we got stuck into that animation. I just don't think our defense is playing as well as it did in years past. I mean, we got the stop there, and then they left the lane wide open. But when it comes to our size and athleticism, we're a lot smaller. And that's why as we go into halftime, we're only up by 1. We actually shot really well from the field too. So I'm going to be interested to see if we're able to keep that up, which we do. Joe Russell only has an 81 3-pointer, and that's the highest 3-point shot that we have out there on the court. So the fact that we're shooting as well as we have in this game makes me wonder what would happen once we get to the tournament. If we can stay hot like this, I think we'd end up being okay. Their shots aren't necessarily falling as much. They just had a layup rim out. As we approach the final couple of minutes, we're going to have another slam in their face. And it's looking like we're about to win our first Atlantic 10 conference championship. They go down low. We're able to swat it. And I can't believe the looks that we've been able to get in this game sometimes. But I think it's because Russell only has so high of a 3-point shot. They just don't respect him as much. They let him shoot a lot more than they should. They were able to go to the line, but they're still down by 9, which was fine until they forced a couple of turnovers, somehow got it back within 3, and we've lost it again. I wasn't even commentating because I did not consider that we could actually blow this game. But considering they just missed that shot, I think we're going to be okay. We only have about 5 seconds left to dribble out at this point. They're going to foul us. And I actually like the customization on 2K8. I was able to set the foul limit before you get to bonus, double bonus. So that way on shorter halves, you get to the line faster. You can't just dribble out the rest of the clock. With that win, I thought we were going to get Chris Ward back, but apparently he got injured the second he came back from injury. injury, and now he's out until the 30th. So we are just suffering from injuries the last couple of years here at Harvard, but we'll see what seed we get. It's actually going to be on this bracket against 3-seeded BYU. And of course, they're going to have a full A+ team. They are also averaging 95 points per game. We have not been set up for success, but if we happen to get past them, we'd get one of the 2 SEC schools. I'm not sure I really see this team as one that can make a deep tournament run, but that was a great start for us. I feel like the camera angles are different inside this arena, and is that another open 3-point shot? Now they're going into the rim. We contest them. It is not going to fall at all. And I've been trying to also work it down low, not just go for 3-pointers, which it turns out has gotten us to the line a couple of times, and we can hit these. They've been able to do the same thing though, so they're about to get it within 2. And running the court, I can't believe how open we are with Joe Russell. Their press is not working against us. They keep on throwing up some really bad shots. And honestly, it also says Ward has a 3-point shot, so we're going to take it. Hang on, do we have Chris Ward playing through injury right now? That is a huge addition to this team if so. And I think it is him. It said he was going to be out, but he's our best 3-point shooter. With him back in the lineup, we might be really scary in this tournament. But I know he's supposed to be injured, so we might need to sub him out. If we get to a spot where we have a big enough lead, I think that's what we're going to do. And I'm very happy with the first half we had. We shot 40% better from the field. But BYU doesn't seem to be going away, which is why we need some more buckets. That has been the complete opposite of what's happened though. They've scored basket after basket. And we've done absolutely nothing in the second half to the point where I'm panicking. We can't really find that open shot. So I've been trying to let Caleb Gordon go to work down low, and the one player that's open is the guy that can't shoot threes. I guess if he has enough space though, he's able to figure it out. They aren't going in. And we're literally just one bucket away from putting this one away from the corner, which we do. For a second, it was looking like a pretty rough second half, but I think we're going to be okay. And if BYU wants to come back, they're going to have to hit a 3 in our face, which they almost did. Sure enough though, it took them forever to foul us, so we're still going to be able to close it out. And this is the second time we've been able to pull off a first round upset. The team is young too, so I could see this team a couple years from now making a really deep run. Even next season potentially, because if you scroll through our roster, every single one of these players is going to come back. We've also earned our way up to a 3-star prestige, and 15-seeded Iona somehow upset UConn, so our part of the bracket's looking pretty easy. I am going to make a controversial call though. I'm going to sim this one against Arkansas. And the reason for that is I think this team might have what it takes to make a really deep run, but that's only with me playing it. If we were to sim this game, we'd still lose by like 20. And what this shows me is our roster is not good enough to compete for a championship yet. Once we're able to win first and second round games in sim, that's how I know we're actually good enough. It looks like Sam Jefferson's going to stay as a 3-star. And here we are working our way up the ladder. This is what I was looking for. The Big East has extended an invitation for Harvard to replace Butler for the upcoming year. I would love to be a part of the old Big East. It's a little surprising to me that Steve Suber is actually going to transfer. I was hoping that we could get him to stick around, but I think he is just gone. And normally that'd be upsetting, but we should be able to get some 4-star recruits now that we're a part of the Big East, and this is why I just wanted to get past that tournament and start actually recruiting better talent. We only have one available scholarship at the moment, but this is the first time that we're able to get some B overall recruits, and this is where the rebuild really starts to get good. I'm gonna pitch everything to the number 8 player in the country first, offer him a scholarship, see if Grant McCall will commit. But maybe I was thinking too highly of our program because he actually decided to sign to Auburn. Now we have to hope that we can get point guard Grant Hawkins, and all I did was pitch him on playing time. We were able to bring in the number 7 player in the country though. He is signed to Harvard. And the craziest part about bringing him in is he is going to be the 13th man on our roster. So that just shows you how much progress we're making. Our team ratings are all at an A rating, and we're supposed to finish second in the Big East, which we just joined. Some of these other teams that have been here for a while are not rated well, like DePaul, Georgetown, Providence. They're struggling. This is what we need though to become a better program. We're actually only going to focus on shooting. I'm pretty sure this doesn't do that much, even if we did lock in on just our starters. But I guess we'll find out what happens. This entire senior class, we recruited them 4 or 5 years ago now, and after revising our starting lineup, it looks like our small forward, our power forward, and our shooting guard are going to be 3 of those seniors. Theo Spencer though, and then at point guard Jason Morales were never good enough to become starters. And all of a sudden, the expectations for Harvard basketball are extremely high. They want me to sign a 4-star recruit, a 4-star power forward, someone from a pipe Pipeline State, a Mr. Basketball, an all-state recruit. I mean, they're just setting expectations sky high. But the thing is, if you look at the caliber of players that we're able to target now, that shouldn't be too difficult. We've also risen up to an A overall team. I still want to make it to an A+ before I'll feel super confident in our roster, but I am interested to see how we do in this preseason tournament. I'm pretty sure we have never won it. And the field looks pretty weak this year, so it might just be our season. We have run into Princeton. I'm curious to see what overall they're sitting at now. We could have never left the Ivy League. They're an A-, so we could have had success out there. But I still feel like being a part of the Big East now has been a big reason in the better recruits becoming available. So even if we lose this game this year, 4 years from now, I think things will be different. All I need is some time to sign those high-rated recruits and then be able to develop them, though we're winning a lot of games. And while doing that, we have signed 3 of the 4 stars. We also have a 5-star interested on our board. I would consider these guys 4-star recruits anyway. I mean, they're in like the top 30, but Fred Nelson's in the top 7. So this kid is 100% our biggest priority, and I'll invite him to the game against Belmont. It'll be interesting to see if he commits. We get to play Duke, who still beat us by a lot, so we have a long way to go whenever it comes to becoming a contender. And it looks like we did get Fred Nelson. We also have Mark Page, the number 5 prospect, another 5-star on our board. We're number 1 there for him. I think I offered him a scholarship, but he didn't accept it yet. I don't know what he's waiting for. Judging by our non-conference results, we're probably not going to do well in Big East play, but it's okay. At the moment, we have 3 5-stars that are now signed to this next class, and these are the guys we're going to develop into a championship team like 4 or 5 years from now. The top 3 in the country all come from the Big East, which definitely stands out to me, but look at this. We are inside the top 25. We can make the tournament this year with an at-large bid pretty easily, and this is exactly why I was okay with losing last March, because I was ready to get into the real rebuild. This is where things get super difficult. We're about to start conference play, and our first game's against number 3 Villanova. As you can imagine, we're probably not going to win that matchup. Our team just isn't on that caliber yet. But here's the thing, by the time we started Big East play, we were already ranked, so unless we just start losing about every matchup, we're going to make the tournament. We also have the current number 1 player in the country, Fred Nelson, joining our team. These rankings can still change, but we have 4 5-stars at the moment that are signed to Harvard. And I'm not going to lie, it felt a little bit too easy to make that happen, but even though our media poll rank is 28, our RPI is actually at 47. So how we finish out the season in these next 4 games is extremely important. We're going to beat St. John's. Georgetown was one of those teams that was projected to have a really bad roster, and so were the Friars, so I think we can also beat them. But to finish out the year, we have to play number 4 Connecticut. They're 11-1 in conference play, and as good as our team is, they're not as good as the Huskies. I am interested to see if we're able to come out on top of this, but like expected, on this game, there's a big difference between the best rosters and the rest, so we're going to lose by 7. We're also dealing with Grant Postel, one of our seniors who I decided was going to start at small forward for us, dealing with a broken foot. He's out until the tournament, which is a bit annoying. Plus, since we didn't finish as a top 4 team in the conference, we have to play in the first round of the Big East tournament. I'm hoping that we're listed in the best of the rest, though. We are, so we're going to be a lock for the NCAA tournament. And with that in mind, I'd honestly just prefer if we could avoid injuries before we get to that moment. We will see if we do. Though this is a bit anticlimactic, the simulating just blocked the entire bracket. We lost to Villanova in the second round, but it's okay. We were already going to get in either way. The top 4 seeds are going to be Creighton, Kansas, Kentucky, and Duke. And I thought we were going to get a bit more respect, but they put us in as a 10 seed with Connecticut on our part of the bracket. They also only gave the Big East 4 tournament bids, and I guess we'll see if we're able to take down Tennessee. I really would just like it if we could get those 5-star recruits in, and this is exactly why. I wanted to be able to win a first round matchup through Sim, but we couldn't even do that. Kentucky would be the team to get out of this region. In the Final Four, they lost in the championship to Creighton, but we're still at an awesome point in this rebuild. We have a center that is averaging over 20 points per game. We're in the Big East, one of the best conferences in the country, and although it hurts that Chris Ward is going to graduate, we never got to make a deep run with him. I've been able to replace him with 4 5-star recruits, all of them ranked in the top 16, and then an 88 overall power forward. I can understand why players would want to transfer out. Connor Gordon is trying to go pro on us, so we're going to have to convince him to come back. Grant Hawkins leaving is not ideal, and it's not even given me the option to convince either of them to return. I guess we're just going to have to find their replacements in this next recruiting period. But it does remind me, we just completed the 5th challenge of the video, producing an NBA pick. The guys interested playing in our school, though, are back down to being just 3-star prospects, and I'm not sure what the difference is between any of them because they're all C+ overalls. I think I'm going to bring in Tim Daniels because he is a B- outside game while being 6'11", and then I also signed this point guard from Canada too, so that tops out our class. It's no question it will be the top class in the country. McNeese State signed the 2nd best class, and I don't even know what's going on at this point. We have an 81% 81 overall in Fred Nelson, and then a bunch of guys that are still going to be good. By this point, I think I just have to focus on winning a championship, developing our guys to be good enough. We're only going to be an A overall like last year, but I'm pretty confident that putting all of our energy into making our starters just go up higher in overall will be what it takes for us to have the most success. And we do have 2 available scholarships, but we have 8 freshmen, which is the biggest thing. Having that many young guys, we just need them to develop our overall from an A to an A+. And I do have 2 more points to put into school pride, so we can max out everything here, which has given us the biggest overall boost. From there, we just have to take care of business. Liberty was ranked inside the top 15, so I'm not too upset with that loss to them. And I have to sign at least 1 center on our board, so we're just going to take the kid that's 6'11". I also happen to notice we are somehow the 7th toughest place to play, and I don't know how that came about, but this is a top 25 matchup versus an SEC team. That's been the conference that's knocked us out of the tournament the past couple years. We are going to beat Mississippi State, but we lost against Jacksonville State, and then we lost another one that was just a weird one we shouldn't have dropped. Do not ask me how, but somehow that made us rise in the rankings up to number 12 after that loss, which just shows everything about this game and its ranking system confuses me, but if we can get a high seed in the tournament, I won't really care. I have also fully scouted Devin Copeland. We are able to find out his potential is excellent, which is something I've not unlocked. Apparently, if you go down this scouting thing and you send a scout, you can finally figure out what their potential is. So I feel like we really lucked out with the one signing we're going to make, and the reason I'm not going after this 4-star power forward is we're losing a point guard and shooting guard, so we're going to need to add on another guard with that final scholarship. With our recruiting out of the way, we can just sim through the rest of the year. We are going to take down Colorado and Ohio State, and that sets the scenes for the number 8 team versus the number 6 team to open up Big East play. We had an undefeated month. It's no question that we're going to be sitting inside the top 10. Appalachian State's the only undefeated team left in the country, and I still think this team needs another 2 or 3 years to develop. But if we can go on the road and compete with one of the best teams in the country, the team that won the national championship last year, and beat them by 1, who knows, we might just find ourselves somehow winning the Big East, though we have 4 teams inside the top 8. It's not an easy conference. One week we dropped 129 points on Xavier, then the next week we lost by 50 points to Villanova. I also don't love that Seton Hall just beat us, because I'm pretty sure they're one of the teams that are at the bottom of the conference. And what I did not realize was some of these 5-star recruits progress extremely fast throughout the year, because Fred Nelson went from being like, what, an 81 and 82 to an 88? We have guys on the bench that should be starting that I just didn't realize their overall was going to go up by this high. We have a redshirted 84 overall Mark Page, and I tried to burn his red shirt, but I'm not allowed to do it. It turns out I might have made some mistakes, but this is what our lineup's going to look like the rest of the year. Fred Nelson's going to play at shooting guard for us, and I am very surprised we still don't have an A+ roster. We definitely played Villanova a lot closer than the first time we faced them, though. We even beat Connecticut, and it looks like we have earned a first round bye in our conference tournament. That loss to Seton Hall no longer looks as bad as I thought it was. With St. John's destroying Marquette, that's going to be our first matchup, but I think we're going to be alright. As far as I can tell, we're still not dealing with any injuries, and that new starting lineup that I put out there is so much better because we're just dominating. To win the entire tournament, we're going to have to get past Creighton and then beat either Villanova or Connecticut, but I feel like all our rosters are pretty similar by now, and if we didn't have such a slow start in the first half in this game, we would have won. It's okay though, Creighton's on fire. They were able to win the entire tournament, and I really just want to get a better seed than last year because Fred Nelson is 100% declaring early for the NBA draft. You saw how many great scores we had on this team though. I am sure that we should be like a top 6 seed, and there it is. We've actually gotten the 5 seed with Villanova on our side of the bracket. The SEC's still putting the most teams into the tournament, but the Ivy League put 3 teams in, and I really think we would have been better off just never leaving them. Also, Kentucky, I am always on their part of the bracket. They're like unescapable. Another team from Kentucky, Murray State, is our first game, and I'm gonna be honest, with their overall as high as it is, this feels like an unfair draw. What did I say though? I wanted this team to be good enough to sim through the first couple of rounds, which we've survived so far, and it looks like BYU has lost to another 14 seed. There's been some chaos on the other side of the bracket. We have an 11 seed in the Sweet 16. We'd play Villanova if we get past Indiana, but that could be a strong if. I have no clue how good the Hoosiers are. If I'm playing this game though, there is one change I'm gonna make. I'm actually gonna change out James Griffith from the starting lineup, and we're gonna have 2 Fred Nelsons out there on the court, mainly because I think it's funny that we've recruited 2 Fred Nelsons but also because they both have over 93 pointer, and we barely shoot better from behind the arc than Indiana, so we need that extra help. I was so locked into the mode of just recruiting the best players available, I didn't even notice that we had 2 Fred Nelsons. But now that I did, I think it's pretty funny that Afro is the kid that's the 5-star. And take a look at this lineup. We still have Joe Russell out there. I wish we still had our center from last year. But with him going on to the NBA, that is the one part about this team that is not going to be as good. He was our defensive anchor, but they are giving Nelson way too much space. And if you thought this was going to be an easy win, you would be wrong because they responded right back. We're less than a minute into this game so far. Nobody has missed a shot yet, though that was great D. And I wish I could say that we continued to play that well on that side of the ball. But unfortunately, that has not been the case, which is why we need to get these open looks. We're taking our game just like the NBA would. It's the highest percentage chance of winning shooting threes. But even then, it's not been enough in this matchup. We keep on turning it over. This is a very good Indiana team. I mean, they have not missed. And I was hoping by now they would have made a mistake, but they really haven't. Fortunately for us, this game's not over. There's still a long way to go. And I just can't play defense against this guard right now. I mean, they are getting everything. I hate to put up another 3-pointer, but if we have the space, we should. And who am I kidding? I actually don't hate it at all. Are you serious? This is how we're going to end the first half, down by 10. And they got every putback basket, they got every rebound, plus they're shooting almost 70% from the field. I have learned from the first half though, just shoot more threes, because in a short game like this, it's the only way that we're going to be able to come back, except they're getting that board as well. Good D. All right, running down the court with Nelson. They've given him some space. We dump it off. I tried to go for a 2, and it didn't work out, plus they ended up at the line. I think the biggest problem is I just haven't forced the turnovers I normally would, but we are still not out of this one. We're a couple stops away from being right back in it. I almost knocked that ball loose. Instead, though, they're probably going to get something to go their way, and we can run down the court with Joe Russell here. They're going to let us get a look at 3. But if it doesn't go in, it doesn't really matter. Thankfully, we're going to get it back again, and you know what? With our 5-star, I'm just going to take the attention off of the corner shot. We could have dumped it down low. We're working it around, and this is a risky 3. At least we're about to force them out of bounds, grab the ball right back, move it up to Nelson, and right here, we're going to pull it. Might as well get it back within 1. We are on a 9-0 run at the moment. They're going to work it down low. I didn't contest that in time, but it doesn't matter. And this is our moment right here. I'm trying to go strong to the hoop. We need to draw a foul or something, but it is clear to me that unless it is a 3-pointer, we're probably not going to score off of it. I don't know what happened in this game for that to be the reality, but we have a shot, and they're going to work it down low to then miss it again. All right, here we go. Running down the court with Russell. Get it back to our former 5-star, but he is also choking. We're not going to get the steal. I'm trying my hardest to get us this ball back. And this is it. If we can't win with Fred Nelson, we are never going to be able to win with him. I'm pretty sure both of them are gone after this season. Somehow, out of that block, they were able to get the ball back, but it's okay. And is Valentine going to have what it takes to dish it down low, and we get a layup? It took us 9 of the 10 minutes in this matchup to get a 2. But now they've also gotten 1. We're trying our hardest to get our best player the shot. I cannot have a turnover. And they're going for the double team. We work it down low. That is a jumper, but we have been able to clutch up. What we cannot let happen now is them hit the game-winning shot. They're going to go for some post moves. We have stopped them defensively, and I think we've coached our way back into it. We are not going to be an elimination here in the second round. We are going on to the Sweet 16, and I am going to have to adjust our playstyle after what we just suffered through. Fred Nelson definitely carried us. Not the good one either. And next up in the bracket, we know it's going to be Villanova. They just took down Kentucky. On the other side, it could be either Florida or Siena, though. And every team from this point is going to be an A+, but what I find important is they average 94 points per game. We've had ourselves a pretty good season, but what Villanova has done has been even better than us. And I'm just trying to escape out of this part of the region. I really feel like this team could be the team that wins it all. But what we saw against Indiana was we definitely have some weaknesses, and that's why we need to get rebounds. This could be a pretty good start, especially if we hit a 3. And I still want to find a way to work it down low and stuff throughout this game as well. But until we find ourselves in front of Villanova, there's no reason to do that. That was a great pass. We really haven't had to run many offensive sets or anything. And the reason for that is on this game, I like to play with more of an up-tempo offense. That was not a 3-point shooter, but we might be able to get a look right here just off of our players having like 95 speed. And I wonder why they don't respect the 3-point shot the way that they should sometimes. I mean, they're doing some things right against us. They're about to throw it down. And I really don't trust us to work it down low here, but if we can draw a double team, it's perfect. I've also gotten back to my defensive ways. We're having some good contests. We just got to get boards. And that's really been our biggest issue in this game, though if they're going to double team, we are always going to have somebody open and of course, it's going to be a 3. I think the longer that this one goes on for, we're either going to be able to pull away or they're going to keep it close. But if they're going to be missing free throws, that just makes our life even easier, and we're still going to get this board to get the bucket. I will say though, for as many free throws as they have missed, the refs just keep on sending them to the line. And so we've had to be on top of it from a scoring perspective, but that has not been a problem unless we're missing. It definitely shows we have guys on this roster that have like 90, 92 three-pointer versus having a 99. They're not perfect, but if we keep dumping it down low every so often too, we could get another bucket. And Willie Valentine's having himself a leading season in points and rebounds. That doesn't make much sense. We have like 20 point per game scores. That graphic's far from being correct. I mean, we know we have like 7 guys on this roster averaging 10 points per game or more. And it looks like they're going to end the half down by 7, though we might as well try to put up a corner 3 and they had a hand in our face. We really aren't even shooting that well. It's just the fact that we have shot a lot more threes than they have, and now we're going to be aggressive. I know that if we can get to the line with Fred Nelson, these should be the easiest free throws ever. And I really thought that with the overall he came in at, he was going to be with us for a couple of seasons. But it makes sense. The #1 player shouldn't be that way. He progressed very quickly. And that's how we find ourselves in a spot where I consider us contenders. We cannot have a close game at the end though. Villanova's kept it a little bit tighter than I would have liked. And without our shots falling the way that they were in the first half, what we might need to do is get out of this fast break offense and instead be a little bit slower pace. It turns out that was really all that we needed. Coming around in the corner, we're going to have Fred Nelson behind the arc, and he keeps on coming around, finding some really open jumpers. Due to Villanova not getting off to the hot start that we saw against Indiana last week, this game's been a lot more comfortable, and I don't see Fred Nelson missing these free throws at the end of the game, so we should be able to just close it out. And talk about a blowout win against the #1 seed. I mean, this is huge for us. I don't care they hit that little shot at the end. It doesn't matter. We get to celebrate. And it looks like, unfortunately, Florida's going to beat Siena, so we play them next. Like Villanova, they're an A+ team, but they don't average as many points per game. And I don't know what else we could have possibly done to get our roster up to that overall rating, but it's fine. We're in the Elite 8. It also looks like we might be able to win our first tip-off. Their center is not that big. I'm gonna just pull up from 3, fading away. And now that I've used Joe Russell for multiple seasons now, I've definitely gotten his release down. I wish our big man play looked that good, but they end up double teaming. We lose the ball, and they'd score 2 more in transition, but it's okay because we've also been able to do stuff like that. Whenever we get off to these great starts though, I don't always feel amazing because I never know when a game is gonna crash on us. And fortunately, ever since that first crash in like season 2 or whatever it was, we haven't had any. But that's what gets me a little bit nervous because I know it's due to happen at some point. They're going down low, but they're going to miss the layup and then dunk it on our face. You can definitely say our rebounding with this team isn't the best in the world, but we've been also going low. And there's a little bit of change of pace for you, so you can't just type in the comments, oh, all he does is shoot 3-pointers. No, I don't only shoot 3s, but if they give it to us, I'ma take it. What an electrifying way for us to open this one up. And we are still working it to our center, which has allowed us to get these looks that we like. I really think Florida is going to have a hard time coming back in this one, because even their point guard there missed one of his 2 free throws. It said he averaged 2.2 points per game, so I'm wondering if they're dealing with some injuries. That's probably the first time in this rebuild injuries have actually really helped us out. Using their pick, they're going to try and get another bucket before the half, but we denied them and we're up by 10. I mean, you knew this was going to happen when you saw the way we opened things up. And I'd really appreciate if things stayed in our favor in the second half, but they might not. Derek Dennison averaging 7.7 points per game. He doesn't seem like a starter either. It is what it is though. Whoever's been out there on the court has not really hurt them that much. They've gotten it within 4. They got the lucky bounce there. And they're on an 8-0 run, which means we had to end it. I don't know why, but it just seems like if I get a big lead, there's a decent chance I choke it. But we might be okay in this one. We were finally able to get a 3 to go in our favor, and now we're running it down the court where we used our strength to get in. We have the Gators exactly where we want them. We've been able to get another steal. We've gotten a few of those in the last couple minutes. And if I had any preference on the guys I recruit in this game, it's definitely guys with high steal. That was a shot that you just can't miss at this point. At least they aren't shooting very well either. And apparently the foul was on them, so we're still up by 9, and they're probably about to start fouling soon. The good thing about that though is we're just gonna put it away. And as we head on to the Final Four, it really seems like this is gonna be our year. year. I'm gonna be honest, the only thing that could potentially hold us back is whether or not I play well. But besides that game against Indiana in this tournament, that's really not been an issue for us like at all. And I just don't see us losing to anybody else, even if Auburn's really good. Starting out, they've worked it down low. We had a hand in his face. But here's the thing. Every team we've played since we played Villanova and beat them has been rated about the same, so I just know that we can compete with them. You can't go any higher than an A+ rating, though they are making everything. While we haven't necessarily had that same luck yet. If the three-point shots aren't falling, we're going to have to go for some twos. And really just trust our defense to actually stop them. I know it's early. I just didn't like how that game against Indiana started. And this one has that same exact feel because they have a high-tempo offense. It definitely matches up well against ours. I will give them that. But we've had no problems making it 7-all, and there we go. They're also going to miss. It was bound to happen at some point. Now we're going to take the lead. And they're taking another corner three, but we blocked that one. You got to give our guys credit. They're well coached. And whenever we come out in the second half, we're going to have to play a little bit better than we have in previous second halves because we haven't been able to get ourselves as big of a lead, though we are doing the right thing defensively. Now we're trying to run the court with Nelson, and we're not going to make it all the way. What on earth did I just do? Sometimes whenever you hold down for a shot, they'll just make the play themselves. But other times you get extremely unlucky. As time winds down in this first half, they can't get a three off. So we're going to be up by 4. And I'm very happy with how we're playing. We might even be able to come out and start off with a 3. But no, it rimmed out, and then they're throwing one up that also misses. I mean, I told you all, the difference maker for us in this game is if we can have a solid start in the second half. And what on earth did Nelson just do? He just had probably the best dunk we've had all video. And I know this kid's a former 5-star recruit. I just didn't know he had that in him. He is using the backboard on his jump shots too, like an old man at the park. And I could probably continue to go to him, but they're also leaving the other Nelson open. We have picked up the scoring in this second half right where it left off. Now we're getting the stop that we need, and I'm gonna start to slow it down a bit. You see, earlier on in the tournament, it just didn't matter as much. But now there's a championship on the line. We just took 35 seconds off of the shot clock and then got a 3 and got the ball back. As we approach the final minute as well, we're gonna get another huge dunk. And Auburn just needed to play better, but they simply didn't. Even with a couple made 3-pointers, I don't see them coming back. We're gonna close it out. And this has been a pretty easy national championship run. Every game besides the one against the Hoosiers hasn't been a scare at all. We've taken care of business. We have made sure at the end that we don't blow the lead that we built up. And with Arizona taking down North Carolina, if we beat the Wildcats, we're gonna win it all with Harvard. Like I was saying against Auburn, it's really hard to tell which of these teams is actually the best because all their ratings are about the same, even their stats, which is why I just feel confident we'll win this too, because there's no way the Wildcats are that much better than anybody else. We won the hard matchup that we had to. This lineup has gotten us this far, and they should help us finish the job in this game as they're already missing a shot. You know how I like to open these up, just pulling some threes, and as the shot clock winds down on our next possession, I thought we got a decent look there. As long as you can get enough room in this game to release the ball, the shot will normally go in, at least inside the arc. Outside the arc is a different story. We're still able to run the court too though, which is great, and I really haven't figured out why teams decide to press us, but the thing keeping Arizona in this one is fouls. It's my fault though. I give up the lane for them to drive, and then it's an easier shot, and so all of a sudden it's 7-7, though I liked that look at 3. I really wish I could get some of our players to cut more so we didn't shoot as many threes, but I mean that's what's been working for us, and they also are hitting their shots until now. I'm trying to become a little bit more patient, waiting for us to get those better looks, though we didn't hit that, and we still got the board where it falls, and this just shows that Fred Nelson is probably like the best player that we could possibly have. I mean, it makes sense. He was the #1 recruit in the country, but we also have got to give Joe Russell some props. There's no way that he was anything more than a 3-star. I mean, they're just not respecting his shot. And as we end the first half, I'm hoping to get one more basket. We're going to go up strong with this. So we are going to be up 20-11 unless that somehow went in. I think if I do another rebuild on this game, it might be time for me to try the hardest difficulty instead of the second hardest one. I only play NCAA Basketball 10 a couple times a year, so this was good to get back into a rhythm. But I feel like I've lost almost no games I've hopped into. And maybe it makes sense. I believe this team was good enough to win it all, but since we never got up to that A+ overall, it wasn't the max overall that we could have potentially gotten. I'm also talking like this one's already over, because it kind of feels like it is. This is where we've had the computer the last few games, but you never know what might happen in the final couple minutes. We've just scored so many times, I don't think it's going to matter, no matter how many more buckets they're able to get. Especially with that miss right there, I think they're in a lot of trouble. I mean, we just had a free layup that we didn't hit. We drew a foul though, and once you get up by like 14 points, the computer will just give up on winning. This is what I consider a really, really good win. We might even be able to double the score versus them if that goes in. And it's safe to say that Harvard used their brains. They deserve this national championship. We were able to win by double the score, 40-20, with our player of the game being Joe Russell. There we are, ready to cut down the nuts. This one actually took a lot less time than it did with South Carolina, because we were only 12 years in, but once we took that jump from Atlantic 10 to the Big East, I knew that we were just going to have an easy time winning it all eventually, mainly because of that one recruiting class where both Woodard and Fred Nelson have declared for the NBA after just one season. That's going to do it for this Harvard rebuild though. We were able to complete all 6 challenges in this video, and if you made it this far, please make sure to like the video. Let me know in the comments if there's any other college basketball team you want me to rebuild during March Madness, and check out some of my other content too.